classified hustle. That's right. The classified hustle. Part of the body, part of the struggle.
Welcome back to another episode of Talking with Dawson. I'm your host, David Dawson, and today we have a special guest in the building.
Hey.
So you want to tell a little bit about yourself? Let the people know who you are.
What was that?
Let them people know who you are.
My name's Ashley, and I'm tuning in from Seattle, Washington. And I'm really excited to be here, especially after watching your last couple episodes.
Hey, thank you. Seattle, Washington. I miss my damn building place. Oh my God. Seattle's where it's at, huh?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I would rather be where you are right now, to be honest.
Man, it's hurricane season right now. I don't know if you want to put that wish on yourself right now. You said
maybe not hurricane season, but summer's been playing peekaboo with us. It's like, they're like, oh, it's going to be warm. And then the next day it's 60 and raining. And you're like, cool, it's almost July. Like,
you know who got the most easiest job in the world is weather people. They just guessing. You know what I'm saying? they don't never have to be right.
Especially here.
Right. Because you guys get a lot of rain, right?
Like, it might rain tomorrow. You know
right. Might.
And then they got like a 90% chance of being right.
Exactly. That's why, like everybody asked me that question. I used to live in Seattle. And everybody asked me that question, like, does it rain a lot? I said, yeah, but Florida rains a lot. It rained, like, it started today, and then all next week is gonna rain, right? And I'm not talking about like Seattle rain. Seattle rain is like a mist, right? Yeah. Here it's like hell. Heaven has fallen on this damn state, right? I mean, we get hard rain, lightning. It's one of the lightning capitals of the world is Florida. Damn. So you get a lot of lightning here, and it's kind of scary, you know what I'm saying? So, but in Seattle, I just missed it. It'd be like, oh, so it rains like it's about equal, you know what I'm saying? But Seattle's like rains misty.
It's like cold, and it's like that cold rain where like you walk into your car outside and like that shit hits you in your face, like
exactly
pisses you off. Yeah,
that's what I mean. Like it's depressing as fuck though. You know, say that you guys, Seattle is probably number one or number two, the most depressed state. You know what I'm saying, in the country. You know what I'm saying? But it's like because that overcast, you know what I'm saying? It's always gloomy, right?
It is.
But out of that gloominess, brings flowers though, right? Because like Ashley, I don't want to get too much, telling them your business, but I'm saying, like, I'm gonna let you do that. But you are a flower among this, this overcast, you know what I'm saying, that's going on right now. You have a lot of shit on your plate, and if you don't mind, why don't you give them a little taste of what what's going on in your life right now?
Well, I feel like first and foremost, I feel like the most important thing to know about me is I'm a mom. I have two beautiful boys, one who's going to be 14 tomorrow and one who's 10.
Yes.
I'm a what you might call a prison wife, my partner, who's been on the show, Jerome Blake. And then I'm also currently battling stage 4 breast cancer.
Hey, and all that is this, really bad. I mean, this is what you're going through, like you said, being a mom. But first of all, let's give this young boy here. What's your kid's name that's about to be birthday tomorrow?
My oldest is Jaden and my younger son, Malachi.
And whose birthday is tomorrow?
My older son, he's going to be 14. And it's just blowing my mind. I'm starting to feel a little bit.
Happy birthday, though, right? Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. I'm so proud of him. And it's so cool to see your kids grow up and see like all that effort and energy and hard work you put into, parenting your kids, and just watch them turn into such cool people. You know what I mean? Like, absolutely. I used to be like, oh, like I have the coolest baby or the coolest toddler or the coolest little boy, but like this kid, he's just under 6 feet tall and like out here he's becoming a man, and wow. It's just really cool to see. That's why I always feel like that's the most important thing about myself, because being a mom is my favorite job. It's my favorite part of
absolutely.
Myself.
And it's so amazing that that you can see life like that, what I'm saying, because a lot of people think that some people will say children they burden, a pain in the ass, right? And I looked at myself.
They are that too. But
oh, they're going to be, especially teenagers, right? They think they know every damn thing, right? But I mean, like, just me, all my kids are older, they're adults, young adults. And I was in the store the other day, right? And me and my wife, and we were shopping for like, a fish tank stand, right? And I seen this little girl. She's probably like 2-3 years old. And I was like, I cannot wait, to come back into this world again, right? And have kids again, because I missed that. Like I'm 54 years old. I'm not too old to have kids, but statistically they say I'm too old to have kids though, right? But if my shit is still swimming, I can have some babies, But like,
right.
Just the way the world is today, I refuse to bring a baby back, a baby into this world, Like, and I think these young women out here today, side note that, you think about having kids, I really think you should look at the situation that's going on in this world. Do you really want to bring kids in here because you can?
Yeah.
It's crazy though, you having, teenage boys, and like, I don't know if anyone, you guys missed that, but my nephew Jerome is locked up in prison, right? And Ashley is his wife, and that's the other thing, like, you have to be a strong mother, right? A very strong mother to be, to
Most
keep these
definitely.
kids out of them streets, right? And it's, tell me a little bit about that, how do you look at this? It coming from, the situation you're in right now with Jerome being locked up and you raising these two boys by yourself.
Well, I mean, I don't like to say that I'm raising them by myself, because I do think that, like, he does do a really good job of supporting me in, parenting the best he can from where he is. And I feel like it really takes a special person to be able to achieve that, through the phone.
Absolutely.
In a visiting room out of prison, and I feel like he does an excellent job.
Why don't you paint me a picture real quick about what that looked like, co-parenting with somebody in prison, and you being, in like you dealing with this every day. You know what I'm saying? So paint me a picture how that looks.
Well, I mean, we talk throughout the day, several times a day, and I feel like consulting, on issues, being able to, back and forth, talk things out, get advice, even sometimes just like throwing the ball in his court, like, tell me what to do in this situation,
Absolutely.
Granted, not being here physically, like, that's definitely felt, it's definitely not the same thing, right, as a person, as a 2-parent household where both parents are in the home. But I feel like we've definitely made the best out of a really shitty situation.
It's people that's out,
we watch
in the world,
movies together, we set goals together, plan together, celebrate birthdays together through video visits and pictures, and in-person visits as much as possible. And it's not ideal, but like I said, it's kind of like any other crappy situation, right? We have to make it's whatever you make of it. He says it all the time, like, life is only 10% of what happens to you. It's 90% how you react to it. So
absolutely,
we try to practice that every day, and we miss the mark sometimes. And there's definitely days, especially being sick right now and going through cancer treatment, I think it's harder than maybe anything else we've done over these last several years that we've been doing this, for sure.
And it's people it's men that's out there that's free in their kids' lives, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm dead ass serious, you know what I'm saying? It's men that's out there free right now, you know what I'm saying, and don't want to be in their kids' lives, you know what I'm saying? Because that can be a very big challenge, being in prison, you feel me, and facing, you know what I'm saying, he got 15 more years left of his sentence, you know what I'm saying? That's another 15 stretch, so that's a 30-year, child coming out, when that child be 30 years old by the time he get out of jail, you know what I'm saying? A 30-year-old man, right? So
no, 100%.
So just think about that, you know what I'm saying? Like, something you said to me, in one of our conversations over the phone, you told me that, like, you don't want people to look at you like this is a bad thing about being, a wife to someone that's in prison, right? Because right now you're in a great relationship, because why?
Well, first of all, I feel like there's a lot of like stigmas and like assumptions that are made, and for good reason, because there's definitely a lot of people that are incarcerated that try to get into relationships with women who are, out here because they're looking for support, financial support, or, someone to, run their errands, or, the things that they can't take care of out here. And so it definitely, it's valid that happens. But I feel like Jerome and I, we definitely have I feel like an equal relationship. And I think that's hard for some people to imagine, right? They just automatically assume that somebody who's incarcerated, what could they possibly offer? But I do think it's the healthiest relationship that I've been in. I feel like you have to have excellent communication for something like this to work.
That's in any relationship, though. Communication is the key to every relationship, right?
It is the key to every relationship.
More because because you have times that that there's a situation in prison that he can't get to a phone.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And if you're going through something at that time, right? Exactly. But if you're going through something right now and that phone call don't get in, you got to handle that situation on your own, right? And I think a lot of people I think when you said stigma is that's what people look at, like he's not there all the time, right? to help you out with these boys physically or sometimes vocally, right? But but that's when super mom kicks in, right? Because if you're a single mother with no man in your life, you still got to take care of them kids. You still got to raise them boys, right? And I know I'll be the first one to let any woman know it is very hard for a woman to raise a boy to become a man. That it's difficult, right? And I grew up with 4 sisters and a mama. You know what I'm saying? And that's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've always been determined to see my kids grow up to be just good people, and
Thanks.
I agree. I feel like there's just definitely things as a woman that my kids can't relate to me, that I can't be the example of like what a man should be or should look like. And I know that that's kind of controversial too, right? I'm in a relationship with a person who's incarcerated. And people think like, oh, maybe you're showing your kids that that's acceptable or, that it's cool. But I think that we've done a really good job of teaching them that it's not a good outcome. It's not a great place to be. And, I think Jerome's a really good example of somebody who's turned his life around and used that experience for good rather than leaning into all the awful things that prison can be. And, really, I just always tried to keep it really real with my kids. I always say that my parenting is rooted in reality. So rather than try to shield them from every hard, awful thing that happens in the world, I try to use it as like a talking point,
Absolutely.
An opportunity to learn. And I think they'll be a little bit more prepared for, the world that we actually live in, not this fantasy world that, I just see some people that just shelter their kids to the point that I'm like, when that kid becomes an adult, they're going to be shocked.
Exactly.
They're not going to be ready for real life.
And sometimes do you have them days when you feel that I know this could be a stupid question, but I know some people may want to ask this question, right? Do you feel sometimes the days like when you wish that Jerome was there with you physically, how do you handle those days when you're going through those conversation with yourself?
I mean, some days just suck. I feel like in that situation, being a parent, you can relate to that. I mean, being someone who's experiencing an illness, like that's just life. Like there are just days that just suck. And sometimes it sucks. You got to embrace it, sit in it for a second, and then, you go back to try to make the best of it. Yes, he has 15 more years on his sentence. There are like a couple bills recently that have passed that could potentially be a pathway for him to come home sooner. And those are things that we will obviously try to pursue. You always hold out hope that, maybe maybe it will be so long.
Right. And how do you give us a little insight about how the boys handle this situation with Jerome being locked up? How are they taking this? Because these are not his biological kids, right?
They're not his biological kids, no. which I think makes it even more special. I feel like anybody, I know you're a stepfather, anybody who steps in and chooses to be a mentor, a role model, or have a relationship with kids that are not his, I think that takes a special
Absolutely.
person,
Shout out
because
to
he
stepfathers.
doesn't have to. It definitely takes effort. People assume, they think, oh, this person's locked up, like all they have is time on their hands. That's really not true. It really takes effort to be consistent, to show up, to call, to message, to visit, on his end. And I think they feel that, you know what I mean? My kids, they have a father who, I don't want to speak ill of him, but he's a little lost in the world, and they don't have, a super close relationship with him. I think it's fair to say that they have a closer relationship with Jerome, which is interesting because he's incarcerated,
Is there any type of conflict with that? With their father, and Jerome being in that, filling that gap in, right?
I think that they both have like a mutual respect for each other.
That's what's good.
I think that, Jerome's always been like, I'm not your dad, and I would never try to be your dad or replace your dad. And, and then their dad, I think he respects, the role and things that, that he's done for our kids. I don't think any, emotionally mature adult could be upset about that, right? Like, having more responsible adults who love your kids is never, I think, a bad thing.
Exactly.
So, and they know each other. They knew each other prior, we all were in the same friend group when we were younger. So it's not like they're strangers. I think that also makes a difference.
And how long you and Jerome been together?
We've been doing this for 5 years, but we have known each other since I was 17, 18 years old.
Before you had kids?
Before I had kids.
Ain't that
before he went to prison.
Crazy though? Like, he met you before you had kids. Right?
Yeah.
And the universe just made it happen where you had kids. Now he's part of that. It's amazing. You know what I'm saying? Like, you couldn't ask for a better person, that you've known before you had these kids, to be part of your kids' life now, because like you knew, and we ain't gonna sugarcoat, right? Because Jerome is nothing to sugarcoat about this man, right? He was, he ran them streets like, like you expect someone that coming from Chicago and, grew up in the lifestyle and grew up in the, family like, ours, right? So he's something that we are predict that people statistically predict that people that grew up in, this hoodish, type of mentality, they're going to grow up being hoodish, right? And it's where the demographics where you raised at and who raising you and where you growing up at, you fall into that statistic, right? So, that Jerome, seeing him now, right? And back then, how did you feel comfortable enough to bring this man into your kid's life, knowing that what lifestyle he, was in before?
Well, I feel like even before he went to prison, I think that he was never a bad person. He made some bad choices for sure, some misguided choices. I do think that a lot of those choices were a result of, the way he grew up, his environment, what he was taught, that, was cool, acceptable, what to expect. You know what I mean? But I feel like the man that he has grown into is definitely a reflection of like, a lot of the work he's put into improving himself, but also his family. Like, I think you can tell that, irregardless of his environment and circumstances, he's always been surrounded by people who really love him.
Yes.
Whether that be his mom, his grandma, his uncle, his aunties, his siblings, cousins. He has a very large family, as you know, and no family is perfect, but I think the love was always there, and I think that's what kind of makes this easier. Is like you can tell he was loved because he gives love. He loves very hard, and he's very loyal and very passionate about those that he cares about, and I think that that's what made it easy to you know, make that decision to allow my kids to be a part of his life and vice versa. Because he's not just some bad person. He made a very bad, decision mistake. And we were young. I mean, we were all in the streets. We were all doing awful things.
Yeah.
I don't think the things that I was doing, define who I am today. I think it was a reflection of, what I was going through, things that I was taught that were acceptable, but really aren't. Expectations that are set for us by adults in our lives who are lost.
Exactly.
We were a reflection of that. And I don't think that's who we are now. And I think that we're both really striving and pushing to be the best versions of ourselves as we can, whether I'm out here and he's in there or whatever, like it doesn't change, our goals and
and it shouldn't, you know what I'm saying? Because like, it says every day, your circumstances will change, right? But the goals you set, you know what I'm saying? The vision you have should never change, should never alter, right? Because
Correct.
like every life has a situation. Every person, every day brings a situation. You know what I'm saying? It's how we handle that situation, how we overcome those, those falling boulders in front of us, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you have to maneuver through life, with an open mind. And you know what I'm saying? With, a vision.
And your attitude in which you approach the situation. Because,
I want to ask you about something like that. Yeah, I want to ask you about that. I'm glad you brought that. I'm glad you said that word, right? Your attitude, right? Yeah. Because not only that you're dealing with a situation with your kids that, they growing up, right? In a society where I believe that a man in their kids' life, especially boys, play a very, very, very strong role. You know what I'm saying? Like it's needed, right? Because you hear the stories about everybody having single mothers growing up, and the road, the path that you look for your kids to take, they take that, they go all the way left. They go on different paths, right? But if you have two parents in each other's life, not necessarily this is 100% factor, but like if you have two parents, it makes it easier, right? If those two parents are really doing their job, right? But I was raised by a strong black woman, you know what I'm saying? And she had other ways of of her disciplinaries to keep us in that straight and narrow way, right? But
right.
You said attitude, right?
Yeah.
And this is what's amazing about you. I'm talking to you on some of your good days. I've talked to you on some of your bad days, right? And I'm telling you, like attitude plays a big factor. Because you're dealing with something that, a lot of people in this world is going through right now, right? You have, stage 4 breast cancer, right?
Right.
Your attitude, determines, right? how people around you are affected. So, tell us about that. Let me also add this. Fuck cancer.
Well,
you know what I'm saying? Seriously, you know what I'm saying? Fuck cancer. 100%. You know what I'm saying? But
cancer.
We both know.
Let me start by saying that I was originally diagnosed with stage 2 breast cancer back in 2023, and I went through a really intense treatment, 16 rounds of chemo, surgery, radiation, and was told I was cured. I beat it, and not too soon after that, I started having symptoms, and I just kind of knew, it was coming back. But my doctors were like, no, you're just experiencing pretty much the fallout from this really intense treatment that you just went through. And because of that, I think that my reoccurrence was caught a little bit late. And the cancer came back in my breast, but also my lungs and my liver. And the treatment I'm doing now is considered palliative because once cancers spread, they don't treat you with the intent to cure you. They treat you with the intent to stop disease progression, so you can live as long as possible. They don't want to hit you with treatment that's as intense because your body will burn out too fast, So right now, they consider that this chemo that I do every 3 weeks is palliative, but it still kicks my ass, and I still have bad days for sure. Actually, I usually have a whole bad week. But my kids, I feel like because we kind of went through this before, they kind of handle it a little bit better. But I just keep it real with them. I'm not dying right now. You know, the reason that I feel bad is not because of cancer, it's because of the treatment, you know, and I've told him, you know, if that ever changes, I will let you know, you know. So I try not to look at it like it's over, I'm dying. And I think because of that, my kids don't feel that energy. And,
Right.
you know, unfortunately, sometimes we'll be around people who will ask really stupid questions like, how long do you have left to live? Or, you know, and I'm like, what? Like, we're not even,
What kind of damn questions that?
we're not there yet. You know what I mean?
Nobody knows that time. You know what I'm saying? No, and I don't want to know that time. I want to live life to the fullest. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the crazy questions.
But I fully believe that, you know, I'm not out of here anytime soon. I feel like, you know, I feel like people know, just kind of like I knew that the cancer was back. Like, I know it's not over for me. You know, I straight up told my doctor, like, you know, I'm going to live until my kids are adults, bare minimum, you know, and one day I'd love to meet my grandchildren. So I'm going to fight and stick around and do what I can, you know.
You know, there's, I've been
till the end of time. So
I've been reading a lot about this, right? I'm sorry to cut you off, but I've been reading a lot about this, you know, that, and they say that there's no such thing as diseases, right? Because our body was meant to heal itself, right? So we have the disease that they call diseases are like the body fighting off, you know, seeing this thing and learning from it, right? So you got to learn, like what they putting in you right now, that medicine they putting you in right now is, like you said, it's just like, it's not here to heal you, right?
Yeah.
It's here to stop the process, right?
Right.
But the other part, the other 99% of it, it takes you, right? It takes you to,
listen,
you know what I'm saying? Like, go ahead.
No, you are absolutely right. You know, there's obviously lots of natural ways to approach cancer. I feel like because I'm a mom, and because I'm the only adult that's like physically present who's responsible for them, like I didn't feel like I had an option. Like, I don't have time to fuck around and try teas from Peru or, you know, pesticide cleanses and whatever, you know. I've had so many people approach. Like, I just don't have time for that.
Right.
Like, that's great if it worked for somebody, but, you know, I feel like I have a responsibility to do everything I can to be here for my kids. And we know that chemo is toxic and it's poison and it makes you sick, but it's also kind of your best bet right now against the type of disease that I have. You know, so I know that's kind of controversial, but there's so much more to it than that. There, you know, your mental health, when you are fighting an illness, a chronic illness, a terminal illness, you know, any type of disease, your mind is like the most important, you know, part of that. And you were saying that, you know, your body heals itself. You know, in addition to doing chemo, like meditating, you know, envisioning my body healing itself, like those are all things that I have to practice every day. You know, keeping my head in the game, you know, like I said, we all have bad days and sometimes you got to sit in it, but, you know, I have to consciously keep myself positive and not let myself sit in the funk, because I feel like it just invites bad energy and disease and just stress into your body. And, you know, it's a choice for me, though. It's not something that comes naturally. I don't wake up like with like unicorns and fucking rainbows shooting out of my ass. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, a lot of days I wake up and I'm like, fuck, you know, I feel like shit. I look weird, you know, like,
and
I have to like, but I have to consciously get myself out of that mindset. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I used to get kind of like bitter because I would look around and I'm like, some people are just so freaking positive naturally. Exactly. And I'm jealous. Like, I wish I woke up that way. You know what I mean? But I don't. And I have a lot of people who make comments to me like, you're so strong and you're such a fighter and you're so positive. And I'm like, I'm fucking not. I just don't want to die, you know? Like,
Facts.
and I want to be here for my kids as long as I can. So it's like, it's not really an option. You know what I mean? Like, we all do what we got to do.
The thing is too, like you have that, you know, that person, the two boys, you know what I'm saying, that you have to fight for, right? Because like that's what, you know, like you say, you mentioned that you want to be here when they grow up and be a man, and when they have children, meet your grandkids, right? That you have, that's your motivation right there. You know what I'm saying? Like the boys are your motivation. That you got more than a lot of people right now probably dealing with cancer, right? Some people are just by themselves and fighting this with, strangers, right? But I hope that we can, spread that awareness that, saying that they're not alone, that this platform can be, used so they can, get on here and watch these videos and see that, this woman is going through some stuff, but look at the smile on her face. Look at the motivation she has. Look at, her situations, right? Because I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna go off the record right now. If I was a woman in your shoes right now, right, and I know that this man locked up, right? Nah, I ain't not worried about no damn man. You know what I'm saying? Kids. I worry about getting myself better, right? Because that's what helping with self entitlement happens, right? When you're dealing with an illness, you don't give a damn about nobody else, right? Because the statistic tells you, the society tells you, you can't do nothing for anybody if you can't do nothing for yourself. You feel me? And you have to reverse psychology and just say, no, I got to do it. I got to live because I got somebody I got to take care of. I got to live. So in 15 years, I can see my husband walk out them prison doors. You know what I'm saying? I can embrace him. I got to live for that. So you have a lot to be hopeful for. You know what I'm saying? And I hate to use that word hopeful. You know what I'm saying? It's a very low vibration word, right? But it's like, you should be excited. You know what I'm saying? Every day you say like, like you always say, I wake up in the morning, I feel like, damn. But that's the thing. That's that self battle we have to endure, right? Because at the end of the day, and I'm going to ask you, to look at life like this, Ashley. Even though I'm not, fighting cancer, right? Not going through, a situation in my life, but I have shit that I don't want to wake up in the morning for. Sometimes, I don't want to get my ass up and go to work. I don't want to get myself to get out and just do nothing, right? But I tell myself every day I get up, I said today is going to be a different day, and it depends on my choice. How this day is going, the outcome of this day, right? So I choose to be happy today. You know what I'm saying? I choose, to be enlightened. I choose to, look at the world and say, fuck you. You know what I'm saying? Because this is a dark world right now, right? We both know, we have talked about this in the past, but we want to make sure you guys, listen to these conversations that we're about to get into, in our other episodes. But this world is so dark. And I would choose to wake up and say, you know what can I do to change this dark ass world? What can I do? And it's about, putting a smile on and, saying like, and saying hi to a stranger, or, going to work with a good attitude. And because I don't know what them people are going through in their lives, right? Somebody can physically look at you, but I mean, there's a lot of bald head ass women around here wearing horse hair. They take that horse hair off, they look at just like this, right? So, but it's like, somebody can look at you and think that, or assume that you're ill, right? Which is a fucked up thing to look at someone and say, wow, you look sick, right? Because it's like, you don't know what that person going through.
That's what I say when I look at the mirror. I'm like, wow,
but it's like, you're beautiful sick. Though. You know what I'm saying? And I also want to tell you this. It's what's inside of a person, right? Yeah. That makes them beautiful. You feel me? I don't give a damn. I remember before I met my wife, I was all self-centered about what a woman looked like. Her body was there, saying her hair, saying her teeth, everything. And I'm choosing women based off the physical appearance, and I'm getting nothing but, toxic ass women. You know what I'm saying? My life, I'm bringing toxic ass women back home. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, it's a toxic relationship now because I'm so focused on what you look on the outside and not even concentrate on what's in the inside of a person. You know what I'm saying? So I said to myself, self, I want to find somebody I can love and show them love and reciprocate that same love, right? Because that's what's important. So you found somebody who's locked, you found Jerome back then, y'all running the streets very young, but now you found someone you can reciprocate that same love, and that's what keeps you motivated. Like your kids, you give love and they reciprocate that same love, right? And then sometimes, them kids like don't think they like you, right? I can't stand you. Oh my God, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? Most kids say that because they don't mean that, right? It's just, we don't mean some things that we say as well, right? But reciprocating the same love, have you, stop self-centering.
Well, I feel like this is the type of situations that we're in right now are a perfect example of why it really doesn't matter what you look like. And I mean, I think on some level, right, you want to be attracted to your partner, but I mean, your partner's incarcerated, given a 30-year prison sentence.
Exactly.
Obviously we don't have a physical relationship right now, so it doesn't really freaking matter like what it looks like. I'm sick, I have cancer, I've lost my hair, I've gained weight, I've lost weight. Medicines make your your face blow up.
Exactly.
And it's like, you gotta know for a fact that like, I love this person for who they are and what's on the inside.
Exactly.
Because you know what I mean? Like, there's gonna be times in your life where what you look like goes away, whether you get
Absolutely.
older, whether you get sick, whether, you know. So yeah, I think it's really, really, really important to, choose people based off of, you know, who they are as people rather than what they look like. For
Absolutely.
sure.
Well, that's what, if anybody can look at this video and say, what can I learn from watching this video? There's a couple things that you can learn, right? You can learn that,
Yeah.
life constantly goes on no matter what condition and what situation you're in. Life still continue going on, right? And there's so many people out there that's healthy, that's living toxic ass lives, you know what I'm saying? And choose to be, hateful and choose not to love, right? And there's people like us who like wakes up every morning, and choose, today I want to have a great day. Today I want to feel better, right? Today I want to, smile more. You feel me? Like those are very high vibrational, words that you use. And that vibration, you matching what the universe is already vibrating on. So you match that when you match that energy that the vibration of the world is on, it feels the resonance feels in you. And you start, people look at you a totally different way, right? Because I'm pretty sure that you're tired of people looking at you and feeling pity or feeling wow, I'm so I would hate to be in your shoes. You know what I'm saying? I hate to, I can imagine what you're going through.
Yeah.
But if you have a time to conversate with me, I can tell you how, what these days seems like, right?
Yeah, I think anybody who takes the time to have a conversation with me is like maybe a little surprised that like I don't spend each day thinking about what I'm going through or cancer. Like life's still life, and like you said, I have the same worries and concerns. I mean, I'm like, oh, what should I make for dinner tonight? Or my kid's failing geometry, or what I'm saying? Like all of the regular stuff is still there. You know what I mean?
Still there,
yeah. And I just try to, and I intentionally choose not to sit in the negative parts of my life, right? Because I don't want that to define me. I want, you get to choose who you are. And I feel like I want to be positive. I want to be a good mom. I want to be a good partner. And I think that not giving so much energy to those bad things, it like defuels it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to let this take over my body and my life. So I'm not going to give it all of my attention and my energy,
They said action plus action is a reaction, right? So if you're negative and someone become negative, the reaction will be negative, right? You know what I'm saying? So like if you like someone, what they say or feel about you, change your perspective, how you feeling, then the reaction is going to be like, you're going to bring on that energy and be like, fuck this world, right? You had told me something and I was really upset. Not like, I was not upset with you, just upset with what you said. And I was like, some days back when you first encountered this illness, you I would like feel like giving up on myself, right? And and the reason why I was so upset, because I can't imagine, knowing you now and meeting you, like, let me put this out there. I've never met Ashley when Jerome met Ashley. You know what I'm saying? Like, this me and Ashley just started talking like 2 months ago. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we came up with this idea to, put this podcast together for, for this platform for other people can, hear what she has to say and hear what I got to say about, different situations. But I was upset about that because I'm like, man, you have so much to live for. You know what I'm saying? Like, like, this ain't the end. But you know what I'm saying? When incurring something like this in life, you start playing on those voices. You know what I'm saying? What if I don't ever get better? What this is going to eventually kill me? So why not, like me, I'm going to give you something. I want you guys to listen real quick. And I'm talking about, you guys out there in the internet world. Just like I went on vacation, like, I was on vacation 2 weeks ago. And I got really sick over there in Panama, right? And I was like, damn, man. I was like, dude, this is it. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I was like, I said this, and I didn't tell you this actually last time I talked to you, but I was like, I'd rather die on my terms, on my time.
Yeah.
If I have an illness, I'm not gonna wait to heal me, to end me, right?
You think that.
And let me tell you this. I reflected on the conversation me and you had, you know what I'm saying, about your illness. And I was like, if Ash can do this and be happy about this and be smiling every day and give me we have great conversations, right? And it's the reason why, another reason why this podcast is, happening, because we have great conversations. And I was like, Ash would whoop my ass. You know what I'm saying? My wife was like, you tell Ash all that good shit, but you don't apply it to yourself. And I'm saying, I felt bad saying that, because like, it really is like, this can't define me. Just like you just said earlier, that your past don't define your future, who you are today, right? Yeah. So this don't define me. You know what I'm saying? And I don't even know what I have yet. You know what I'm saying? If I have anything, you know what I'm saying? I'm already thinking the negative, because that's what our minds go at, because we're so programmed to think, hey, I don't want to die like this. Right? Like, die what way? You know what I'm saying? Like, this is so many ways we can die. Millions and trillions of ways we could die, right? But this is what we have to say to ourselves. Even though that this may take my life one day, right, we still can live life to the fullest in between those days, right?
You know what someone told me?
What's that?
Is, we're all gonna die. That's a guarantee. That's like the only guarantee in life, right? But when you are diagnosed with an illness, or like me, like a stage 4 cancer diagnosis, the only difference is I know how I'm probably gonna die. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, that is the only difference between me and you. The when, the how, the way you choose to face that, I feel like that's all up to you.
Exactly.
And when I was initially diagnosed with this reoccurrence, I felt how you were feeling. I had all the emotions, all of the, I was afraid. I had fear. I'm like, I don't want to suffer. I don't want my family to watch me suffer. I don't want to be a burden. And just that feeling sorry for yourself of like, I don't want to have to deal with this at all. Like, why
Thanks.
me? And I think that that's valid. I think that sometimes, there's no shame in experiencing those feelings. But like, you just can't get stuck there. Like, you have to allow yourself some time to process and feel those things. And then you have to make a choice. Like, you have to move on. Because we see what happens to people who get stuck in those spaces. They're negative, they're angry. Those people you meet that walk around and they just got this chip on their shoulder, and it just comes through in everything they do. And, I made a decision a long time ago. I don't ever want to be one of those people.
That's a great way to look at life in general. You know what I'm saying? Like, without illness or with an illness, right? That's a great way to look at life in a whole, right? Because like, we don't know when that day coming. So why don't we live that day today and the next days until that day to the fullest, right? And choosing, because the only thing you really have in life is a choice. Right, that's the only thing given that you have. All you have in this life is choice, because you can't determine
absolutely
when you're gonna die. You can't dictate, how you're gonna die. Right, all those choices are taken away from you. The choice you do have is that you do have a choice. I choose to live today. I choose to be happy today. I choose to, go out there and touch someone's life today. I choose to let this platform be a beacon to light to people in general. Right, to say here, like. Like right now, we're talking about some very sad things, and I promise you, we will have some fun moments on this podcast. But Ashley, I thank you seriously for coming on this podcast, and I can't wait to continue to have a conversation with you. And it's like Ashley said earlier, please leave comments. You know what I'm saying? Ask her questions. She's here to answer these questions, and she's happy to answer these questions if you want. If you just allow her the opportunity to do so, right? But Ashley, you're a beautiful person, man. Inside and outside. You know what I'm saying? And no matter what, the situation and what circumstance you're going through, I know that you're going to overcome this. And I hope that I can be part of that, you know what I'm saying, every day with you. I was
just going to say, we're going to overcome it. Because it definitely takes a village.
And I'm here for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I always, I'm telling people, I used to tell you all the time, Ashley, call me, talk to me. You know what I'm saying? It's just that she don't want to be a burden on nobody. You know what I'm saying? But like,
Well, now I feel like I gotta save it for here. So
exactly, and we will. You know what I'm saying? So I appreciate you coming on the show. We did, you know.
thanks for having me.
Hey, make sure you subscribe. Make sure you like. Make sure you share. I mean, her story is you just heard just you know the crumbs of her story. You know what I'm saying? She has so much. So much to to tell, and it's like I can't wait to hear it all. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, this is my opportunity as well as the people out there listening, opportunity to meet you and to get to know you. You know what I'm saying? And it's like it is so beautiful how technology make it a way that we can get to know each other. And I'm in Florida, and she's all the way in Washington State. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we still get to reach out
We're
and have this kind of conversation.
Opposite corners.
Bing, bing. You know what I'm saying? You on one spectrum, on the other spectrum. You know what I'm saying? I made that trip plenty of times. You know what I'm saying? So thank you again for coming on the show. You know what I'm saying? And I can't wait.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate it. Any last words?
Until next time.
Until next time. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to see you guys next time on Talking with Dawson. Thank you, Ashley. Have a nice night, okay?
Thank you. You too.
Make sure I just let my light shine more. Anything made it feel like this, I remind myself about this.